Nadine Unger. He's suing her former friend, Michael Ponsford, for damaged property and filing a false police report.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Judge, case 3166, Unger versus Ponsford.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Unger, your cause of action against the defendant has a couple of parts. First, you're suing him for having you falsely arrested.
Correct.
And then you say that he damaged some property which he was storing for you in a unit.
Correct, at his
Okay.
house.
Those are the two things that you're suing him for. He has a counterclaim for property damage, which he's going to tell me about. So first I'm going to deal with your complaint, because I've read your papers, and it appears to me that you two have known each other for a long time. And at some point after knowing each other for a long time as friends, you began a relationship. In what year was that?
We didn't begin a relationship. I rented a room in his house.
Renting a room in his house, that is some sort of a relationship. That's more than shaking somebody's hand.
It's a relationship. It's a
Well, I
business
understand that, but you
relationship.
were, in fact, in a relationship with him while you were living in his house. Could you give me an answer, yes or no? That's a very easy answer. The answer is yes.
I'll plead the fifth.
What? Miss Unger, please don't play with me. You have a claim, and your first claim is that he had you arrested. And what I am trying to establish is the ground rules for that part of your complaint, having you falsely arrested. You knew each other for a long time.
Yes.
Let's not play with each other. You moved into his house, and when you moved into his house, you began a relationship with him after a period of time.
After a period of time.
Okay. Very good.
May I present some evidence?
No.
Sorry?
While you were living in his house in the year 2022, 2 years ago, according to you, he had you arrested for domestic violence. And the incident surrounding that, I'm going to encapsulate and tell me if there is anything inconsistent with what you wrote in your papers and what I'm saying.
Okay.
On this date in 2022, you took his phone. You took his phone to make a call, and you went into another room in the house.
No. He gave me his phone. I asked if I could use it. He gave me the phone, and I went into his shop.
That's exactly what I said.
In the shop. It's not in the house. And I locked the door of his office so I could use
Madam,
the phone.
it's all pretty irrelevant to me, because what I read, what he says happened, what you say happened, two different things, but putting it all together, you took his phone, you went into a room, you locked the door, and according to him, he tried to get into the door, and he wanted his phone because you were looking through his phone, and when he finally got into the door with a key, is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it was his house. He said that you assaulted him. You left the house subsequent to that. According to you, on that day, you went out to a movie and you went for something to eat, and then you went home. That's what it says here. And you went home, and when you got home, the police were there and they arrested you for assault.
I was arrested for assault. I did not hit him.
Just a second. You were arrested for assault.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. And you were taken to jail. And you were in jail for how many days?
7 days. But I didn't hit him.
Just a second. We're getting to why it doesn't matter, Miss Unger. We're getting to why it doesn't matter.
If I hit him or not?
Yes, we're
Doesn't
getting
matter?
to why it doesn't matter. So you went to jail for 7 days. And when you got out of jail, you contacted the defendant and went back.
No, I couldn't.
And you went.
There was a restraining order.
Back to the house.
No.
Are you telling me that after this alleged assault, you and the defendant, I've read your papers, you and the defendant did not go back to having a relationship for a period of time?
No. Never.
After she was released from jail, we made arrangements for Nadine to get her belongings. Is that what happened?
Correct.
Shortly after that, she came to me and apologized and wanted to rekindle things.
No.
She told me how overwhelmed she was, and her outburst was a one-time thing. She never officially moved back in, but she stayed at my house most nights. Are you telling me that
No.
that is not true?
That is not true.
Did you ever stay at his house after you got... Careful what you tell me. Did you ever stay at his house after you were released from jail?
No.
Have any proof that she did? That would be anything after September 18th, 2022.
I have the...
No, just a second. Don't speak. Just look.
Well, these...
Don't speak. I'm resting. Just find. Any communication with her after September of 2022?
I didn't say I never communicated to him, but I'd never spent the night there. He won't find anything. There's no evidence I spent the night at his house after that.
I don't know whether you did or not.
I did not.
I had screenshots taken of conversations, but nothing's dated here.
Okay.
There's no proof because it never happened.
I'm not so sure, Miss Unger, because I don't think that you were actually totally honest with me. In any event, he filed a restraining order against you, a temporary restraining order, according to what you said, and the restraining order was granted. Yes. Was it granted after a trial?
A hearing.
Well, a hearing, a trial. You appeared before a judge.
Yes.
And you were sworn to testify.
Yes.
And you testified.
Yes.
Well, you had to testify, and he testified. Other than the two of you, did anybody else testify?
No.
And after the hearing, which has the same quantum level of proof that I have here, the judge granted him a restraining order.
The judge said he didn't.
Just a second. Did the judge grant him a restraining order?
He did.
For how long?
6 months.
Nadine Unger claims her former friend, Michael Ponsford, damaged her belongings and filed false charges against her. Michael is countersuing for property damage.
Okay, I can't here, nor will I, overrule that judge's opinion about whether or not he was entitled to a restraining order. And his restraining order was based upon the events that took place in 2022, correct?
Yes.
Just that event. That was the only kerfuffle that the two of you had, I assume.
No.
It's the only time you were arrested.
Correct.
Okay. Well, the judge has already ruled on that, so I'm not considering that. It's not part of your case anymore. It's already been adjudicated.
I have the arrest report.
Have what?
The arrest report where she was arrested.
Does it take her statement as to what happened?
No.
It states that...
Shh, don't tell me what it states, then I can read it.
Your Honor, I counted 32 lies in that statement to police, the arrest report.
Mm-hmm. Police report indicates that you had a relationship with him for 2 years.
No.
Not true. Okay.
I moved in July of 2021.
And moved out when?
When I was arrested.
And never came back?
Never came back.
Okay. In any event, that case has already been adjudicated. Another judge heard evidence on it, and whether or not there was sufficient showing that he was entitled to a protective order. That court found that he did, and I'm bound by that court.
Those charges were dismissed.
I don't care whether they were dismissed. The dismissal is beyond a reasonable doubt. The quantum of proof, on the other hand, in a civil proceeding is much less. And a judge who heard his request for a protective order granted it to him on the same facts that you're asking me to hear. I cannot do that. It's called res judicata. The issue has already been decided by a court where the quantum of proof is exactly the same as it is before me. I'm not relitigating that case, Ms. Unger. Do you understand? I don't care whether you understand. I don't care whether you understand or not. I've just explained it to you. You want to consult with an attorney? You can do that. The attorney will explain the same thing. You've had your day. I'm not speaking to you.
Okay.
You've had your day in court.
I did not have a day in court. That's why I'm suing him for damages of filing a false police report.
No, madam. You did have your day in court before a judge.
That was before the charges were dropped. The charges,
listen, please.
Criminal charges were dropped after the...
It doesn't matter.
After the...
It doesn't matter. This is a civil proceeding. You had a similar civil proceeding before a judge who heard you testify as to whether or not you assaulted him, and he testified as to the nature of the assault, and that court found...
I didn't testify, though.
You just told me that you did. Could you read that back when I asked her if she told her story? Either you testified or you consented to the order. That's the only way. Yeah.
It says, and you were sworn to testify, yes, and you testified, yes.
I did not testify.
So when you told me you testified, you were lying to me.
It was a long time ago. I did not testify.
It was a long time ago, too long ago for me, too. There was a final order of protection granted for 6 months. That case is finished. Now let's talk about your property.
I brought a video of the assault when she hit me in the office.
I'd like to see that, by the way, just for giggles.
Me too, for giggles.
Get out of my office. Get out of here. Get out of here.
You get out of here. I'm not doing
Get out of here. Give me my phone and get out of here. God. Oh! Ow! Ow! Ow!
So fake.
Ow! She took my phone. I told her to get out of my shop, out of my office, and now she's slamming the door and twisting my foot.
That is so staged.
Ow!
You're not a good actor.
Okay, turn
I'm
it off.
not even in the picture.
Turn it off. You were in the picture, Miss Unger. In any event, it really is totally irrelevant. That case has already been adjudicated with the granting of an order of protection to Mr. Ponsford. Now let's get to the property that you say was either taken or destroyed. Tell me what property was either taken or destroyed.
All right, I have pictures. There were 6 vending massage chairs.
It's just six vending?
Commercial massage chairs.
And where were they?
They were in my storage unit that we brought to his house on August 29th.
Of what year?
2022.
We're now in 2024.
Yes, I had no resources. I had no money when I got out of jail. I had no money. I had no car. And
what? And you have no case. We're finished. Your property's abandoned. If you left property, it's abandoned. It's done.
I couldn't go back.
This is 2024. You couldn't go back. You had an order of protection that was for how long?
6
months. 6 months. We're 2 years later. And I'm telling you, you have no case.
He says
so
you're a
goodbye. So you're a goodbye. I have a counterclaim. I want to know if it's as ridiculous as her claim. Your counterclaim is from what year?
2022, Your Honor.
2022. Pay careful attention to me. Have you been incarcerated since 2022?
No, ma'am.
Have you been hospitalized for more than a week since 2022?
No, Your Honor.
Where have you been since 2022?
Living and working at my home.
Very good. Then you should have brought your counterclaim, which you could have acted as a claim, in 2022, correct? Just answer my question. That's why courts say you have to act within a period of time that's reasonable. 2 years is not reasonable. I say that to her with regard to the property she's fetching about, and I say the same to you. You have a problem with her damaging your property. You should have brought an action 2 years ago.
I dwelled on it for a while.
Well, dwell on my dismissal for a while. This case is over.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I planned on having a case for 2 years, putting it together, and, didn't get a chance.
This case was a great display of timeliness and why it matters, especially in courts. I think 2 years is a long time to wake up every single day and you still have the property damage every single day. And then you don't decide until one morning, maybe I should sue for that. And it takes up court's time. And not to say it's not important, but if it was that important to you, you would have sued in a timely, as you said, to the reasonable person, which in this case is you.
Well, it's unreasonable. You're putting the defendant in a position of having to respond to a cause of action without any specificity. And that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Case 3156, David versus McLean. All parties, please come forward.
Verona Davis is suing her son's friend, Leonard McLean, for a refund of catering services for her birthday party.
All right, Ms. Davis, you were planning a birthday party.
Yes.
You were planning, and it was a big birthday party, and you hired the defendant to prepare the food for the party. Correct. And it is your claim in this lawsuit that he served bad food.
Correct.
Verona Davis claims her son's friend, Leonard McLean, owes for a refund of catering services after he served cold food during her 70th birthday party.
Okay, so the birthday party was when?
December the 16th, 2023.
How many people were there?
Approximately 60, 70 people.
Well, I need to know how many.
70 people.
So 70 people were being fed?
Yes.
And he charged you $1,800?
That's correct.
Or $25 a person?
Correct.
Correct?
No.
How much did you charge her?
$1,900.
Did she pay you the $1,900?
No, she paid $1,800.
So stay with it. $25 a person. Okay. And how many courses was he supposed to serve?
It was courses of fried chicken, baked chicken, codfish, roast beef, meatballs, tossed salad, potato salad, string beans.
Okay, that's a lot of food for $25 a person. Okay. Okay, and you had your birthday party, and you claimed that the food was bad. The fried chicken was not well cooked. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
The baked chicken?
The baked chicken was not well cooked either.
What about the roast beef?
The roast beef was raw.
Do you have any photographs for me?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
I'd like to see the photographs of the food that you're talking about. I don't see anything wrong with these pictures. I see you have circled a piece of fried chicken, and you have circled that it looks as if it was bloody inside.
Correct, Your Honor.
But there's nothing wrong with the other pictures you showed me. This doesn't do it for me.
Your Honor, if you see, it's pink in the middle.
I saw that. He acknowledges that. He said he took it off. When you showed it to him, you acknowledged that you saw that the fried chicken had red inside, and you took it off. That's either a yes or a no. That's what you say in your answer.
Yes.
Getting hungry and testy.
I'm sorry.
So just answer my question. Don't think about what I would like to hear or what's good for you. You say in your answer you took the fried chicken off because it wasn't prepared right.
Yes.
Okay. Did she complain about any other of the food to you?
No.
Okay. You didn't complain about any of the other food in your complaint either.
I complained after the party, Your Honor. We had a meeting. We had 3 meetings. I explained to him the chicken was half cooked. I have complaints from my guests.
Just a second. Can't tell me about complaints. The fried chicken, he acknowledges, was not cooked enough. Next. I looked at the other pictures. There's nothing wrong with the other pictures of the other food. Nothing. What do you want me to see in the other pictures? Look perfectly fine. You were feeding 70 people for $1,800. You never said anything was wrong with the baked chicken. You said there was something wrong with the fried chicken. So what did you have meetings about?
Your Honor, I complained about the baked chicken and the fried chicken after the party when I called Lenny up and showed him the chicken because he gave me a thumbs up. I said, come here, I need to show you something. When I showed it to him, he acknowledged that the chicken was half cooked. Also, the chicken was cold. Everything was cold. So when I told him that, he explained to me that his worker cooked the food, right? So I explained to him later on, the next day, because he sent me a text saying that he apologized for the food was bad and he apologized.
Oh, I'd like to see, just a second. If you have a text that he apologized to you because the food was bad, other than the fried chicken, which he acknowledges, I'd like to see it. Just a second.
Yes.
Just a second. Very nice. He says he apologizes for the fried chicken. That's it. He said, I need to truly apologize for the mishap with the fried chicken. He took responsibility for it, for the fried chicken. So people didn't eat the fried chicken.
Nobody ate the fried chicken.
Good. Nobody ate the fried chicken. Everybody ate. There were a lot of other things for them to eat. By the way, did you have a contract for $1,900?
Because she's a family friend, I didn't do a contract.
What kind of accommodation, because she wants the full amount she paid for you, that is never going to happen. You served one dish that was not cooked.
Correct.
What kind of accommodation were you prepared to make?
I was willing to reimburse her for the price of the fried chicken.
And how much was that?
For 2 pans, it was $250.
For both?
Yes, $125 each.
Did he offer that to you?
Yes, ma'am.
You should have taken it. You had a party. People ate. If you don't like him as a caterer, don't use him again. He acknowledged he made a mistake. His chef undercooked, or whoever it was, undercooked the chicken. He was prepared to give you a substantial, based upon the whole number that you paid, accommodation of $250. I'm telling you, you should have taken it and run.
Ma'am, may I say something?
Say whatever you want.
Okay, Your
In
Honor.
30 seconds.
Okay, real quick. $250 he offered me plus an $800 food credit. So I explained to him, if you offer me an $800 food credit, why should I use your $800 food credit when you ruined my party? It was my 70th birthday party, and he humiliated me in front of all my friends and my family.
Let me explain something to you. I had several weddings, 2 or 3 of my own, a lot of weddings for my children, even a couple for my grandchildren. And every once in a while, there was a bad dish. But everybody ate and everybody celebrated because they were celebrating your birthday or a wedding. So don't give me tears because the fried chicken was bad. You should have taken the $250. Are you still prepared to offer her the $250?
Yes, minus the $100 that she still owe me.
Well, all I want to see is that she owed you the 100. She said 1,800. Show me the conversation where she was supposed to pay you 1,900, and I will certainly do that unless Miss Davis acknowledges that the bill was supposed to be 1,900.
You want to acknowledge that?
Just don't ask her.
I'm sorry.
I asked her. She understood me.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Do you acknowledge you were supposed to pay him 1,900?
I acknowledge I was going to pay $1,900.
And that you gave him 1,800?
I gave him $1,800.
Okay, so that I will give you the credit for the $100 she didn't pay you. So judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $150. We're finished here. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I'm happy with the decision.
Nobody didn't eat any food at that event.
I tried to offer her the money. We didn't have to go through this.
It was very disappointing. It was humiliating, and it was horrible.
These are things when people try to be greedy. This is what happens.
My 70th birthday party, and it was ruined.
You know, I really thought that defendant did everything he could to make it right. Sometimes things get undercooked and served. He was notified about it by her at the party. He pulled it away as soon as he heard, took accountability, said, I'm so sorry for this one dish out of many that didn't turn out how it should have, and I'm willing to give you this discount. Obviously, you don't have to pay for it. And I thought that was a pretty stand-up response. So I thought he did everything right, and I think the right thing happened in the end.
Me too.
Is suing his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, for personal property and filing a false restraining order.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case 2052, Henry versus Christine.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Henry, what you're doing is suing the defendant with whom you had a relationship for a period of time for the return of property that you had in an apartment that you once shared, and for filing a false restraining order, a false police report.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you never lived with her, that you damaged her front door, and you filed a restraining order against her that was false. So, Miss Christian, I think I'm going to start with you.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the papers that were filed, you and Mr. Henry did in fact live together for a period of time up until
October 9th.
Shh. Up until October 9th of 1921.
Yes, Your Honor.
Of 2021, 1921, hardly almost the year of my birth.
Yes, ma'am.
2021, when he left.
Yeah, without a note.
Just a second. October of 2021. Then the information that I have contained in these papers indicate that he sort of came begging back, and that was in February.
Yes, ma'am.
Of 2022. And you took him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was living with you. You were living in the same apartment from February of 2022 until what you say in your answer is June of 2022, when for some reason you were looking through his phone. Now, you were looking through his phone because he was acting weird or whatever.
Yes.
That's June of 2022. You understand where I'm going, Miss Christian, don't you? Of course you do. So from February of 2022, February, March, April, May, for 4.5 months, Mr. Henry and you occupied the same residence.
No, ma'am.
Your residence.
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what you say.
No, ma'am.
Oh.
He lived in his own apartment in Merritt Island. When we got back together.
Here we go. On February 15th, 2022, he contacted me and we got back together. He had his own place and never lived with me again. He would stay over occasionally and bring a few things to make himself comfortable. On June 21st, I went through his phone because he was acting weird. Where was he when you went through his phone?
He was asleep.
He was asleep where?
In my bed.
Okay. In the apartment?
Yes, I work at 6 o'clock.
In the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, yes, ma'am. And I saw that he was setting up a date with the mother of his child.
Yes, ma'am.
I got upset, dropped off my son, and then came back home while he was packing. He told me he was taking my couch, TV, dresser, dining table, and everything in my apartment. So my next question to you is, who paid for the couch?
Me.
I'd like to see a receipt.
I don't have it.
Who paid for the couch?
It was a couple years ago.
Shh.
Sorry.
My brother, Adonis Glover, he's the one that gave me the furniture.
Just a second.
He gave me the couch, the love seat, the lamp, a few other things listed on that document.
When did he give them to you?
He gave it to me before me and Miss Christian moved in the first apartment.
So let's go back. Where was the first place that you lived with the defendant?
Cocoa, Florida.
Okay. From when to when?
From 2020 October to February, March 2021, because that's when her lease was up.
Were you both on the lease in that apartment?
No, I wasn't on that lease.
Just you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the first place that you lived together?
Yes.
And why did you leave that place, Mr. Henry?
She was relocating to Titusville. I helped her move into it, and I moved in as well.
Does that sound familiar to you? Be very careful what you say to me, because when I say I read the papers and I have my own preconceived ideas of what this case is about based upon 50 years worth of experience, be very careful what you say to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Does that sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am, he is lying.
He is lying about what?
Adonis did not give him that furniture. Furniture was given to me, never was given.
Just a second. So we're not talking about the furniture now. We're talking about when you lived together.
Okay.
You first lived someplace together and then moved into another place.
Yes, ma'am.
So that sounds familiar. Am I correct that this is all about furniture?
No.
Mr. Henry, value of property. She's not paying you for property, for furniture that was given to you that was secondhand. You have to understand that. If I find that it's your furniture, you're going to go and get it.
Yes, that's what I was hoping.
Just a second. You're going to go and get it.
Yes.
If you can establish to me that it's your furniture, you can keep it. You're not a married couple. I have a couple of issues with some things that I think that you did, because I actually think that you were together and he was packing his things, but then the police were called and you told the police that he didn't live there. Isn't that right?
Yes. Okay. Because...
And just a second. And that wasn't true.
It is true.
Tell me where he was living.
He was living in Merritt Island. Okay. Whenever we broke up in October, from October to February, we broke up. He reached out to me the day after Valentine's Day. We started talking. He was buying me gifts to try to get back in my good graces. He was doing all this extra stuff to try to get back in my good graces. We got back together. He never did move back in with me. He always did live in his apartment in Merritt Island. I work at 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 p.m. Sometimes whenever I didn't have a babysitter, he doesn't have a job, he would watch my son. That's why he had a key. That's why he had to spend the night bag and all of that. He would bring over his clothes, shoes, PlayStation, anything to make himself comfortable to stay the night. And whenever the police were called, they made him collect all of those belongings and leave. They escorted him off the property, told him that he was not allowed back. They told me that
well, that's because if that's what's happened, that's because they believe you, which I don't.
Okay. They definitely...
That's because they believe you and I don't, because if he was trying to get back in your graces and he was living in his own space and you weren't back together again, why in the world were you going through his phone? If you were just a casual gal, and a casual gal doesn't let him stay with her son because, well, he was available and he wasn't working, so he watched my son and he stayed over. That all sounds like a whole lot of Who Shot John. And it was convenient for you to be able to say he doesn't live here. So all I want to know, Miss Christian, is this case is mostly about furniture, used furniture.
I also have a TV there.
Do you have the receipt for it?
Yes, I have a title.
I'd like to see it. You have a TV in the house that belongs to him?
So the TV was...
Just a second. That's either yes or no.
No, the TV does not belong to him.
Who does it belong to?
The TV was a gift from him to me that I ended up paying off because he told me that when he bought it, that it was bought cash. Whenever months later, I paid the TV off.
No, you didn't.
Just a shh. First, you're going to show me that you paid it off. I assume you have proof that you paid it off?
I paid him cash for it because I did not think that we were ever going to break up.
Well, you never thought you were going to break up. I thought he didn't live with you. I thought he didn't live with you. You don't buy TV for somebody that you don't live with, that you're not going to watch all the time.
Eventually thought we were going to move into a house together, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Oh, don't tell me what you thought.
The TV that was bought was before I even...
Okay.
It had nothing.
That's a PlayStation and
That's
Nintendo.
still property that's still at the apartment.
Okay. These are things that you say are yours.
Yes.
That you bought and paid for.
Yes.
Okay. All of these receipts.
All of it. No help
Okay, so let's go beyond the point of now you're back together again, because that's what I believe. He's in bed, you're going through his phone, you find he's making a date with the mother of his child, you get annoyed, you take your son to another location because you know that there's going to be an argument. You come back, there is an argument,
Yes.
He wants to take stuff, whatever, police are called, you tell the police he doesn't live there, they escort him out. He wants his property now. You're not married people. Whoever paid for the property or whoever was the recipient of a gift for the property owns the property. That's simple. You know, that's what the law is.
Raheem Henry claims his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, owes for personal property. Erica is countersuing for door damages and stolen property.
Okay, he has a Nintendo, a PlayStation, Sony.
Your Honor, he collected those whenever
Just a second. A queen mattress and foundation. And we have May of 2022. This is a TV, an LED TV.
Yes.
That was my birthday present.
Nah.
What?
Okay, so I have titles to these things. You have titles or receipts for any of these things?
I don't have receipts for any of those things. He grabbed his PlayStation, his Switch, and everything whenever he left. The only thing that is in my apartment is the TV that he bought me for my birthday. May is my birthday. May 7th is my birthday. That was my birthday present that he bought for me.
Did you take your Nintendo?
No.
Did
I haven't had. Recently, that was something different. My storage unit was just broken into. This is why I don't have original documents. And she stole more of my property.
I don't know that. Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
did.
Did they ever find any of the property?
No,
Perhaps?
not right now.
Okay. The couch, whatever other furniture is there, is how old? I mean, it used to be used furniture, so it was.
Yeah, my brother Adonis got it when he paid for it. It was like a kind of like a bundle deal for the apartment, like a lot of furnishing, and I ended up giving him some money for looking out.
That was 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
And it was used furniture at the time?
Yeah. It wasn't nothing like brand new out of the seal.
How much did you pay for the TV?
I got taxed when I was like at 15, almost to $2,000, because it's a 60-inch smart TV.
Okay. So what is it that you want, is my question.
I want a court order to go get the rest of my property.
I have to know what the rest of your property is.
Yes.
You have the TV.
The TV, I have asthma medication, I have plantar
She doesn't.
fasciitis.
I want to tell you something. She threw out your asthma medication.
I believe so, too.
She threw out your asthma medication.
Yeah.
What else?
I have crutches. I have.
You have what?
Crutches and certain things. I have
You don't. Look,
PlayStation.
you don't need crutches. And the PlayStation you said was in the storage unit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not interested in the storage unit. So far, I have a TV. What else?
My mattress, my bed, my
You don't
stuff
want
that I had
You don't
from the
want
apartment.
that. You don't want a mattress. Are you back with
No.
this lady now?
No.
Where are you living?
I've been living on the streets. I've been living out of my car ever since this been happening.
Where are you going to put a mattress?
I have a storage unit that I was going to just collect. I'm pretty much just trying to salvage what I can because I have things that's sentimental, stuff from my grandmother passing away, things that I really can't put a price tag on. I just want to be able to get a court order to just get the rest of my belongings.
I don't know what the rest of. I have a TV. You have no place to put a mattress that's a couple of years old. So you really don't need that. I mean, I can give you an order to get your mattress, but what are you going to do with it? It's just going to cost you to go get it and to store it. So you really don't need it.
I don't need it, but I would like to still get all of my property back. Like the stuff that I paid for because I worked hard. I furnished
I'm giving you
apartment.
your TV back. You're going to get the TV. I haven't figured out what else it is that you really want to make this whole thing worthwhile. I'm not giving you any money. Do you want the mattress back? You paid for it. You're entitled to it back. I can give you an order for the mattress and the TV.
Okay. And I also have electronics, like from games, the controllers, just so much things that
TV, mattress, box spring. He's going to come and get it with a marshal, but he's coming to get it within 5 days from today.
So what if I pull up my bank statements to show that I gave him cash around the same time that whenever it was pulled up and everything? Because I did give him cash for the TV, for the bed, for actually more than he ever even put into it.
Let me explain something to you. Unless you have a check made out to him, I have a problem with somebody who lies to the police.
Ma'am,
I do. I have trouble with somebody who got very angry because her boyfriend, who was living there, watching her son, brought a TV, bought a mattress, bought a box spring, bought all of those things, and then you got annoyed that he was involved again with his child's mother. You dropped off your son someplace else to come back to have a fight with him. You did have an argument with him. Police were called. You said to the police, he doesn't live here.
Your Honor, he moved out.
He doesn't live here. That's what's here.
Your Honor, I never moved out.
He moved out in
We had a
October.
whole business together.
No, we do
were
not. That business
creating.
is in my name, and I have the receipts to that too.
You have to understand something. I know what happened. I don't believe you.
Ma'am, I'm
you
telling
have
you
to.
the truth.
No, you're not. You're not telling me the truth. That when the police came, you said he doesn't live here.
Yes.
He doesn't live here. Put him outside.
He took all of his belongings.
Did he take his?
October-
Oh no.
May I finish? He took all of his belongings on October 9th. Whenever he left, without a call, without a text message, without anything, he broke up with me and left. He got back in contact with me in February. Mind you, we never lived together after that.
He was just staying over to watch your son when you got angry in June.
Whenever
It was June. It was June, 4.5 months later.
Which he would go back to his apartment. He would come. He never stayed more than a couple nights consecutively.
Okay. He's coming to get his TV. He's coming to get his mattress and box spring.
Can we
You have a
talk about
counterclaim.
my counterclaim?
You have a counterclaim for damage to the front door.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Damage to the front door.
Kicked my front door down.
Okay. When did he do that?
The day after he was police escorted, they told him not to come back, and the next day he came back and kicked my door down right in front of the police officers.
So he came back with a police officer.
And kicked my door down.
Just a second. He came back with a police officer, and the police officer was there when he broke into your apartment.
Yes, and they were going to take him.
No, tell me what they were going to do. And they did nothing.
Well, they trespassed him from my apartment complex.
I'm asking you, what you're telling me is, madam, which is why I have problems with you right from the get-go. What you're telling me now is he came back to get his property. The next day,
He didn't come back
with a police officer.
Yes.
And what you're telling me, a police officer, and what, you live in Florida?
Yes.
What you want me to believe that a police officer saw him kick down your door, go into your apartment, take property, and did nothing. That's what you want me to believe.
He didn't not do anything. He was completely confused on who actually lived there.
You're telling me a police officer was confused.
I'm telling you the truth. They were very confused on
police
who
officer
actually
was
lived
my
there.
Just a second.
They were trying to figure out if it was my apartment, his apartment. I had to go get my property manager, bring my lease that only had my name on it.
You don't understand. The last place you lived with him full-time, your name was on the lease too. Only yours.
Correct.
And you lived together. So now you took his lease again, just in your name, and said, he's not on the lease, he doesn't live here.
We broke up, though.
Okay.
And
All right. He's coming to get his
left.
TV. He's coming to get his mattress.
Miss.
Okay.
And I would like to see a police report. I would like to see.
I also
were
have an
stolen.
iPad.
Just a
that-
second.
Okay.
You're done. You're going to get your TV, your mattress, and your box spring.
Has accused his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, of keeping his personal property. Erica claims he broke through her door and stole her belongings.
Now,
Yes, ma'am. I have my Chromebook, my iPad, my office supplies, things that were stolen from my company that whenever he kicked my door down and took things out of my apartment that day.
okay. Now, let's get to the company. What kind of work were you involved with when you and the defendant lived together, Mr. Henry?
I did all the graphic design. I made the business cards.
Just a second. Were you involved in graphic design?
Yes. I actually went,
Just a second. Together.
no, it was mainly me.
And you did this over a computer, over a laptop?
Over a tablet, over my iPad.
So the business supplies that she's going to tell me about were for the graphic design business?
Yes. Some
You
of the
said-
supplies, but I never stole anything. I just had an iPad that I worked on, and I did graphic design on it. That was mine. I gave her cash for it. She found it on Amazon for me for a good deal. I was able to draw on it. She's never had access to it. It's always been my Apple ID on it.
Where is it?
I don't know. The day when I got escorted out, she came out of the apartment. I was going in to get the rest of my belongings, and she was saying, "I can't find my iPad. You have it." And I right then and there, I knew she found it and she took it and hid it. So the officer let me go inside to get my belongings. I looked in the closet where I had it wrapped up, gone. I walked outside and was like, "Erica, where's my iPad? I paid for that. I do work on it. That is mine." She said, "I don't know. It's gone. You must have it." Had this whole sob story about it. So still to this day, I have no idea.
Okay. What else?
My iPad that he stole the day that he broke into my apartment, my Chromebook that he stole the day that he broke into
Your what?
my Chromebook, my laptop.
What else?
I have my printer that he stole. It's all right here, 600. Do you want me to just pass it to you?
Did you take a printer?
I'm so sorry.
I wasn't able to leave with anything because they made me have to go through a civil suit because she started claiming stuff and saying it was hers and it wasn't mine. So the officer didn't even let me go back inside the apartment.
I want to know, when you went in the presence of a police officer, whether you pushed down the door, kicked down the door or not, unless I have a police report, I don't actually believe that a police officer...
He was my escort. I
Just a
actually
second.
met him.
Did you take any electronics with you when you left?
I didn't leave with anything.
Okay, just don't give me a whole bunch of papers. What I'd like to see is a police report or any other documentation that he took anything the day after you had him evicted from the apartment where he was living.
She didn't even have me evicted.
I have the receipts of the stuff that he stole.
He said he didn't take anything. He said the police officer was there, wouldn't let him take a printer. I mean, those are heavy electronics.
Yeah.
And that was the only other time he was in the apartment.
He also checked my car.
No, he didn't.
Unless you have some sort of a police report for me, Miss Christian, I don't believe you. I think that you were really angry. I think that you were really angry because he left in October. You took him back in February. You found out that he was not being straight up front with you, and you were dishonest with the police, which is all part of being angry and felt that you were being taken advantage of. According to you, you was together so much so that he bought you a television set a month before you threw him out for your birthday that cost thousands of dollars. That's what you just told me.
Ma'am, he bought that TV in February for me for an early birthday present. He bought it for an early birthday present and told me...
He's coming to get, listen to me, he's coming to get his TV, he's coming to get his box spring, he's coming to get his mattress. It's a court order. It's a court order with a marshal in 5 days from today. Do you understand?
I also have
5 days from
my
today.
Countersuit, my false police reports, the false injunction, everything that he did.
I have to tell you something. The same way that I'm not entertaining because it's over, this fib that you told to the police, which caused him to be... don't interrupt me. I'm not entertaining. You filed restraining orders against each other?
She filed...
Just a second. You filed restraining orders against each other. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a restraining order against her?
Yes, but it was dismissed.
I said, do you have one currently? The answer is no.
No.
Do you have a restraining order against him?
No, ma'am.
Good. It's exactly what I thought. Because neither one of you have to say goodbye. You have to stop being angry, but you have to give him back his property.
I only wanted the restraining
TV, mattress, box spring, 5 days from today. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished with this case. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think that it was unfair.
I'm pretty much just happy it's all over.
Broke up with me without even a text message, a phone call, nothing.
She just took it and ran with it, and she decided she was going to take matters into her own hands and be spiteful.
Very single. No more relationships for a while.
It's definitely time to move forward, move past it.
The good one is out there, but I have not found him yet.
It's just nice that at least it's over. It's a weight lifted off my shoulders.
I sort of felt sorry for him. He probably deserved some of it, but you can't lie to the police.
I think she was being vindictive by saying he doesn't live here. He doesn't live here. He sort of kind of lives here if you're being truthful. But it's always a good idea to have your name on the lease if you can, because that's all the officer has to look at in a squabble like what happened between them.
Yeah, it's almost between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
If your name is not on the lease, you're not responsible for the rent.
Yep.
And I've usually suggested that when you're living together, you don't have both people's name on the lease, because in the event that you separate, who's going to stay in the apartment? And if you're the one who leaves, your former partner may say to you, don't worry, you leave, I'll take over the rent. But if they don't, you're still on the hook with the landlord. So
there's pros and cons to both.
But it's an exit strategy.
Yeah.
And people have to be smart enough. You see, he had an exit strategy. His name wasn't on the lease. Yeah. But then he needed it. But I think she was being dishonest. And I think his brother did, in fact, give him some old furniture. Who cares about that? It's from decades ago.
You only stay a few nights. You're not bringing your furniture.
Your couch, your TV, yeah. Anyway, they just have to get over it and move on.
Put a period.
Put a period. Now he has his TV.
Is suing her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, for unpaid wages and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2103, Horn versus Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Horn, it is your allegation that the defendant, for whom you worked for a relatively short period of time, owes you some wages.
Yes, ma'am.
And in addition to owing you wages, you are suing her because you claim she defamed you by calling you a drug addict.
And she went to my board telling them that I did other acts.
Well, you can't tell me what she told anybody else because that's hearsay.
Could I give you the evidence?
No, you have to wait until I'm finished.
Okay.
That's your claim, that she owes you money for wages that you weren't compensated for and that she defamed you. The defendant says that you were an hourly employee. You were, in fact, paid for the hours that you worked. I assume that you are claiming that she paid for the hours that she worked. She has a counterclaim, and her counterclaim is that after you separated, parted company, you posted some very damaging and defamatory comments on the internet about her organization. So why don't we start with you, Ms. Stewart, and tell me what kind of an organization you have.
Your Honor, what we do is that we provide opportunities for people who have substance abuse, behavioral health, who may need education services such as getting their GED. We do skills training. We have employers that will staff them as well. And we also provide substance abuse and behavioral health services.
Is it a 501c3 organization?
No, we are a for-profit company as a corporation.
And how many employees do you have?
We currently have 7 employees.
And when did Ms. Horn come to work for you, and what was she hired to do?
She was hired as the clinical director, and she started on July 21st, 2022.
Okay, before I go to Ms. Horn, I want you to tell me what special training did you have, or is it required to have? You're the director of this?
I'm the VP of operations.
Okay. Is there any special training that you had?
Besides having the master's in accounting, I have my own accounting firm.
Okay, so you have a master's in accounting,
yes,
and you have your own firm.
Yes.
Okay, and you do operations
yes,
for this. Okay, and Ms. Horn, I'd like you to tell me what your educational background. You were hired as the clinical director.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me about your educational background.
I've been in the field for 15 years. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I have my LPC, which is an independent licensure. And so when she wanted to do illegal practices...
No. You're getting ahead of yourself, Ms. Horn.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you answer an ad?
Yes, ma'am. I went for the interview, and when I showed up for the interview, she told me that I could not oversee the clinicians, BHTs, and case managers, and that I could not sign off on notes because I had an LPC. I got the board on the phone that day, and
You're getting far ahead of yourself, Ms. Horn, and I'm just telling you, who is this person?
My dad, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm just telling you that what you're doing is, by not just answering my questions, you're not serving your cause well.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Don't tell me what she told you she couldn't do. You started working for her on what date?
The date that I actually started working for her was July 27th, 2022.
And were you an hourly employee?
No, I was a salary employee. Could I show you?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sarah, would you bring up a July calendar for me? I want to see the days in July.
I have it.
Okay, so this was an offer, and it was a pretty nice job. Paid on a bi-weekly basis, $115,000 a year, with an increase the following year. The work offer was contingent upon a background check.
Yes, ma'am.
A drug test.
Yes, ma'am.
Participation in training, and any other safety measurements for staffing. So between July 21st and July 27th, when you started, was a background check completed?
It was completed.
That's all I wanted to know, was completed. Was a drug test completed?
Yes,
Not
ma'am.
before she started. No.
Just a second. Between July 21st and July 27th was a drug test conducted?
Yes, ma'am.
It was conducted, but on the 28th, her drug test was done on the 28th of July, after she had started.
Okay, so you took it on the 28th.
Yes, ma'am.
I need from the 27th to August 3rd.
Yeah, the 27th was a Wednesday.
Yes.
August 3rd was the following Wednesday.
Okay, so she worked Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
And then the following
Monday and Tuesday.
The 3rd
No,
would be
ma'am.
that Wednesday.
5 days.
No, ma'am. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of the last week. Her grand opening was the Thursday of that week that I quit. And what she is talking about, I talked about at the beginning before I took the drug test, and they said that it was no problem. I take medication that's prescribed by doctors, and I have proof that I take medication by doctors. and I'm not a drug addict.
Well, I don't want to get into what medication that you take that's prescribed by doctors. I would assume that we're not talking about blood pressure medication, and we're not talking about medication for migraines, and we're not talking about stuff to take care of rashes on your arm.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So let's say you worked there for 6 days. How much were you paid?
I was paid $55.29 an hour, but I worked those 7 days.
How much were you paid in total?
So the last paycheck that they gave me, $909.58.
May I see it?
Yes, ma'am. And I want to send up, I think I have the credit card because she had owed me money. And here are the days that I worked.
What is
circled?
Do you have a paycheck?
She did not give me a paycheck. The first one was a paycheck. The others were direct.
I want to know how much she paid you in total. Let's have it.
So for just wages itself,
that's all I wanted.
I was paid.
You want to tell me, do you have records, Ms. Stewart, about how much the plaintiff was paid by your organization?
She received 2 checks. She was paid $1,903.38.
$1,903. And that was for?
When we did the drug test, she was gone for over 5 hours. Drug testing are supposed to be done before or after work hours. Then she returned back to the facility between 4:30 and 5 p.m. that day and said that she had an emergency, that her friend was in the hospital, and so she could not work anytime. Then after that, on the next pay period, Sherna wasn't.
She really only was with you for 1 week.
Yes.
Stewart for unpaid wages and defamation of character. Kimberly is countersuing for property damage and slander.
So she really only was with you for 1 week.
Correct. And then on the next pay period, because she was paid for those 3 days and the time that she took off, we put her on the hourly rate because she didn't work a solid 2 weeks. But at any rate, we paid her for the time and days she was there. And so we don't owe her any money. She was paid.
Well, you were actually paid almost $2,000 and you were there for 5 days.
What she said was a lie. I never took off time.
Just a sec, I said something. Don't say what she said was a lie. You were paid almost $2,000 and you worked for 5 days.
7 days.
Well, when you went to take your drug test, what time did you leave?
Well, the other person...
Just what time did you leave?
I did not leave from anything. I did it on my own before I started.
So is what you're telling me that the defendant was incorrect when she said that you were gone from the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have anything to support that she was gone for 4 hours?
Ma'am, she was gone for half the day because that's when she ran into my office and said, hey, there's some stuff that's going to show up. Will I be fired? Or am I going to have a job? So
when did you have that discussion with her?
That was on the 28th of July.
Did you ask her what substances?
Yes.
Did she tell you?
Yes.
Okay. From my information, Ms. Horn, yes, how much do you think, in addition to the $19.03 that you were paid, do you think you're owed?
10 hours, ma'am.
10 hours. Which 10 hours?
That's from the week of the second week, not the first week, because I never left. I actually stayed late the day before their grand opening because she ordered a sofa.
Are you charging her for those hours that you stayed late?
Yes, because that's work.
No. Okay. What else? Right now we're just playing with time.
I passed everything and I was told I would be fine.
Just a second. Who told you that? She?
Yes, ma'am.
When did she tell you you would be fine?
I went to her. I said, there's going to be a drug test. Here's the medications that I take.
On what date did you tell her that?
About the 28th, yeah.
On the 28th, did you tell her that on the 21st?
No.
I'm just asking you.
No, because what happened that day was it was a confused interview where I was about to walk out.
Okay. Well, I'm getting unconfused. So you went into her before she got the results of the test and asked her specifically, these are the medications that I take. This is what's going to show up. Is it going to be a problem?
This is common, Your Honor.
Is who?
This is common in my field, to take drug tests before all the field.
You're going to answer my question.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, if you knew that it might have been a problem, you did not tell that to her on the 21st of July or the 22nd or the 23rd or when you started, but not until either right before or right after you took the drug test. That's when you said you went into her office and said, these are the medications that I take. Is it going to be a problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Horn, actually, I'm glad you're here with your daughter.
May I talk to her for a minute?
No.
Okay.
You may not talk to her.
Could I show you a picture of the inside of the facility of what happened in that facility, please?
No. You left. And I find that the records are so, actually, you don't have records, unless that's something that you want to show me. You wanted to show me something about your employment hours? You were paid almost $2,000 for the few days you worked there. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't work out. You hated it there, and she wasn't crazy about you.
Because I had to leave because I was going to be violating state law and federal law, which she's already done, Your Honor.
I'm going to ask you, and you've been doing what you're doing for 15 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what job you had that lasted more than 3 years.
I've moved
Tell me who you worked for in the last 15 years, more than 3 years.
I can't because I was in graduate school and then I went to
So you weren't,
PhD.
just a second, so you weren't in this field for 15 years, you were in school.
I've been seeing clients since 2007.
Privately?
No.
Well, what I asked you is, who did you work for in the last 15 years, more than 3 years?
University.
Is that where you went to school?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where you went to school for how many years?
5 years.
Your father wants to have a word with you before I'm finishing up with this case. You want to have a conversation with her?
You're blowing it. You answer her question directly and don't go anywhere else.
Okay.
Was that helpful?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're leaving the salary that you think you're owed. You say that the defendant called you a drug addict and thereby limited your ability in your chosen field. So show me, tell me.
I would like to submit the board allegations because everything...
Just a second.
And may I provide the timeline for what happened?
What I want to know is, what is this?
That is a falsified document.
No, just a second. It is a document.
To my board stating that I did things that I did not do. I highlighted the bottom.
To your board or to the board?
Shh. Okay, so this says a complaint was filed against you with the Arizona Board of Behavioral Health. Complaint alleges that you may have committed an act of unprofessional practice. If this is somebody filed a complaint against you.
She lodged a false complaint.
Shh. No, somebody lodged a complaint against you.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't say who lodged a complaint against you. It says a complaint has been filed. You didn't file this document.
Yes, she did.
Excuse me?
It's her signature at the bottom.
The types of documentation that were filed was list of medications, harassing and threatening emails and text messages, and budget left in desk. I don't know what that means.
She said I had all of my possessions, but how did she only have my budget?
I'm telling you that this is what it says.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? The CEO filed this document, and you swore to the accuracy of this document. Well, this report says that you were complaining that the person who was doing intake had to have a master's level. Don't look at any papers. That's what you were complaining.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
your first complaint.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
the person doing intake, and somebody said to you that the person who was doing intake was just taking basic information, and once the basic information was taken, they would be assigned to somebody else. But that's
Your
what
Honor,
it said.
She said that she wanted to get some substance use information. My state board gave me this paper that I'd like to submit.
Just a second. I don't care about your state board, actually. The question is, does she owe you any money? She doesn't owe you any money for salary. I've already determined that. I see what she was supposed to pay you. It's not that you were working there for days. You have hours that you think you want to be paid for. That's not happening. You were paid almost $2,000, and what I gather was a very acrimonious few days. I mean, you're talking about either 5 days or 7 days. You were compensated. Forget it.
Has accused her former employer, Kimberly Stewart, of defaming her. Kimberly claims Sharna caused property damage and slandered her business.
Okay, the only other thing that I have to determine is whether or not she called you a drug addict. Now, would you show me where she called you a drug addict?
It wasn't just the drug addict. It was the false documents that I
No. She's allowed to file a complaint against you,
But I
madam.
never had a police officer come to me, question me, or anything. So if I did it, they would have come to me.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is she is allowed to file a complaint against you.
Yes, ma'am.
They have a responsibility to look into the allegations of that complaint. Did they either sustain the allegations in this complaint? Well, this is just August, so I assume they haven't completed the investigation, or have they?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so they have not.
That's why I'm filing defamation, because this is doing it on purpose.
I'll let you have one more go at it. You say she's doing this on purpose.
Hold on.
Do you have...
Yes, I have my father, who's a witness from court one day.
What court?
Explain.
Don't speak.
We were in court because they tried to file an injunction for harassment, and the judge, my dad.
Just a second. Went to file an injunction against you for harassment?
Yes, ma'am. Right after I went to the police.
Just a second. And were you served with a document?
No, ma'am.
Well, then how did you end up in court?
I saw the document on my door, and unlike the defendant, I went to the court to take care of it. You can laugh all you want, but I took care of it.
You have to be served with it.
I'm actually finished. I asked one question, and you tell me that you have the answer to that question. We're going to repeat the question. Whitney's going to, and don't go off on this question. Just stick to what the question was. She said they did this thing, it's sort of either retaliation or on purpose or...
She said that's why I'm filing defamation, because she's doing it on purpose.
On purpose. Okay, and it was the on purpose, and you said you wanted your father to testify to that and on purpose. Now go. Stand up next to your daughter. You are limited to the following. You are limited to telling me proof that you have on behalf of your daughter that the defendant has filed these charges against her, not on purpose, because she absolutely did them on purpose, but I assume that you meant maliciously.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'll hear you.
Okay, I'm going to keep this as
Maliciously. What evidence do you have that the defendant filed this complaint and swore to this complaint maliciously?
I have no proof, but...
Then you have no proof. Then you can sit down.
Right, but that's not the question she asked.
All I want to know is maliciously. Now you can sit down. Okay, now we're going to get to the last question that I have for you, and then we're done. Do you have anything in writing where she called you a drug addict?
Your Honor, in the complaint to my board.
Okay, we're done. We're done. So now we're on your case. Now we're on your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for property damage. What property?
I will show you the documentation to the counterclaim.
Just a second. Don't tell me that you have documentation. It's a shattered window. When was the window shattered?
The window was actually shattered on August and let me make sure I get you accurate dates. I'm sorry.
Did you witness it being shattered?
No, ma'am.
If you didn't witness it being shattered, what proof do you have that if... Put your hand down.
Yes, ma'am.
Put your hand down.
I don't have it up.
Oh, put it down. Very good. Better.
We don't have witness.
If you don't have witness, then you don't have proof.
Okay.
Any other property damage? Shattered window? Anything else?
It was a broke lock. The day that she was, can I say this?
No. I'm very easy.
No, I'm saying the day that she came out to and sent the police to our facility on a Saturday, the lock, I saw her leaving that day, and our lock was broken off of our gate.
All I want to know is, did anyone witness her either?
No.
Then the answer is no. Do you have any security footage of her?
I do.
Put your hand down.
She said she had.
Put your hand down.
You're going to see the video.
No.
Not the video. She stated in a document she had video of it.
Just a second.
Oh, gosh.
I don't think you understand the court process. So I'm not going to tell you. I dismissed your case, and I'm getting very close to dismissing hers. I'm dismissing those parts of her complaint which allege property damage because she has no witnesses that you, in fact, committed property damage. There's no reason for you to continue looking up papers. Your case is dismissed. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. It's about
very clearly. Now, the last part of this case has to do with the defendant's allegation that you, in fact, defamed her organization. I'd like to see in writing what you have to prove to me that the plaintiff defamed your organization.
Yes,
I want you to... I didn't ask you for anything. Now it's her proof. Do you understand? What I'm telling you, Ms. Horn, is your behavior is a little off. I'm telling you.
Because I was framed.
Just a second. Your behavior is off. And I've told you why. I've given you specific reasons why. You had two parts of your complaint. One is for wages, which I dismissed, and the other one for calling you a drug addict, which you could not prove.
No.
You're not hearing me. I asked you for proof that she called you a drug addict. You didn't have it. Now, proof that she defamed your organization. May I have it, Kevin?
This is from her and her father. And
just a second. Her father isn't a party to this action.
Can I speak to the counterclaim? Because I have proof from her.
Sure.
Her text. It's her text.
This is from him. I'm not interested in anything from him. Sue him. if he said nasty things to you?
Your Honor, it's just not nasty things. This all came about because of everything that Sherna has done, and she doesn't realize is
Listen to me.
Yes.
None of this comes from her.
She's on it. Her name is on
I
there.
don't care whether her name is on it. None of this comes from her. They CC'd her.
This is proof.
Put everything away. Put all your papers away. I'm not coming back to you unless I, in fact, see that there's any validity towards her counterclaim. Then I'll come back to you. Right now, your claim is dismissed. Both counts of your claim is dismissed. I've dismissed her claims for shattered window and a broken lock. And these emails do not represent any form of defamation. If you have nothing else, your claim for defamation is dismissed. Do you have anything else? The answer is yes or no.
No, Your
No.
Honor.
We're done.
Easy.
Thank you. Bye.
This court is adjourned.
Thank you. Our facility and myself have done nothing wrong.
I think I got flustered, which is fair.
We're doing everything according to the Arizona State Board and laws.
I actually thought that they paid her. She complained that she hadn't gotten her second paycheck. If you look at the documents say that they went right in and bookkeeping corrected that and sent her out the second paycheck. So that was nonsense. And there was absolutely zero proof that they called her a drug addict.
Except for in a valid document that they filed, which they have a right to do. It wasn't the type of slander we usually see where it's plastered on the internet or anything like that.
And certainly the defendant didn't present any proof other than some nasty emails back and forth by her father.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just being a supportive parent. Anyway, I hope she finds a job that's comfortable for her and some peace.
Smoody are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years.
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline.
And when did you and your former wife separate?
In 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the 2 children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car.
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time, the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck.
Yes.
By agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle. All of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments.
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You paid for the truck.
That's correct.
Since 2017, since they
correct.
were married.
Yes.
With no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, Babameises in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Babameises, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those two things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No. The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payments.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments. Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in the ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink, with a day, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct? That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
Claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning, because I was paying all their bills.
Just a second. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason, and that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
We'll get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys,
yes,
and he was going back to Minnesota.
Right.
And he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her 2 kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have some place to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And on the truck.
Nice.
And
he
he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you?
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story because what
Your Honor, I'm telling you the honest to God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck. So you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. Is mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me, so you sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payment, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody?
Yes.
Sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him.
Okay.
And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever to cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and later on he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling Jacqueline in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone. I
don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was marital.
Just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing. Yeah. You did know when they were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you seem like
live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No.
But then in July, they went back with their father.
That's accurate.
And they've been with their father since?
Yes.
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6, 7 months.
Right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer?
And Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments.
Oh, well, we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin. And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that...
You can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter...
Yes.
You had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15, pajamas, 8:30, bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, Just a second. If you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry.
That's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always has.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a room?
She wasn't renting. She was living there free.
Okay. So now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer of the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the children.
After bedtime.
Okay.
Called my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 ring. And she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it, walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let them talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances, roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This was a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these 2 little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
a legitimate
debt or claim, then
listed. Suing her sister, Kelvis Bentley, for moving costs.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2106, Bentley versus Bentley.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Bentley, this is your sister.
Yes.
The case is relatively simple. Your mom passed away a couple of years ago. There was a house full of furniture that belonged to your mother. According to what I've read, and this is broad strokes, according to what I read, your sister, what's your first name?
Kelvis.
Put your mother's property in a storage unit.
Excuse me, it was already in storage.
Who had put it into storage?
My mom put it in storage. My mom was terminally ill, and she put it in storage 3 months before she passed away.
Is that correct?
Yes.
On what date did your mom pass?
November the 8th, 2018.
So it would have been in storage since August of 2018.
Correct.
From August till November, who paid for the storage unit?
I have been paying it.
And how much is it every month?
Right now it's $209, but it was $182 in the beginning.
But about $200 a month, and it's been 3 years.
Yes, I've been paying that every month.
This is what your case is about. You say that you gave your sister $900 for the purpose of traveling, getting your mother's things out of storage so that you could all disperse your mother's property.
Yes, but the amount is incorrect.
What's the amount?
I gave her $800.
Okay, $800.
Yes.
In order to get your mother's furniture to where you live, so that you could separate the furniture and the family could take what they wanted or needed of the property, correct?
That's correct.
Good. Then COVID struck, your sister didn't use that money to travel, to hire truckers, to move the furniture, and you want that money back.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the whole case. Okay. Just for my own information, you do expect when that furniture arrives to be one of the beneficiaries of that furniture. That's what your sister says. She says that that's the plan once it all comes back.
That's not correct. I didn't want anything out of the storage but pictures.
Pictures?
Yeah.
Well, pictures of things.
Yes, that's it.
Pictures of what?
There's a picture of me and my mother. That's all I wanted.
Did you tell that to your sister?
Yes, I did.
Did she?
No.
How many sisters are there?
It's only 2 of us now. It was 4, 2 deceased.
Did your mother have any other property?
My mother has a whole 2-bedroom home in the storage. She has furniture, everything.
Other than furniture?
No. Clothes, pictures, yes, things like that, yes.
Is there any property in that storage unit that you want?
Well, I'm holding her stuff because it's sentimental. I mean, I can get it, I wouldn't mind having it, but it's really, she got a lot of sentimental stuff in there, so that's why I've been paying.
Furniture?
Yes, furniture, clothes.
Furniture?
Pictures, everything,
Okay.
Yes.
How far away is the storage unit from where you live?
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina.
How far away?
10-hour drive. We stay in Michigan, and the storage is in North Carolina, Charlotte.
Anybody that you know live there close to the storage unit?
My aunt and my cousin does.
And this picture that you want, do you know where it is?
It's in the photo album with the rest of the pictures.
And other than that one picture in a photo album, you don't want anything else, any of the other property?
No.
You two are the heirs, is that right?
We have a brother.
Does he have, as far as you know, any interest in any of your mother's property?
No. When my mom passed, it was me, my niece, and my older brother there at the time of death. And so he got everything he wanted out, and he gave me the key because I was the next to older one because she wasn't there. So he was like, so y'all do what y'all want to do with it. And so that's when I told her, I'll pay it until we go get it.
You said, I'll pay for the storage unit until we go and get it.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'd like you to tell me about this money that she gave you. Do you remember when she gave you the $800?
She gave me the money, I want to say May of 2020.
And can you tell me what the conversation was when she gave you the money?
Here is some money to go towards going to get the things, And so I told her, well, I'll find a way to go get it. I didn't never give her a designated time, but during that time, that was COVID, so no one was able to go. And so I was going to go this year because I just signed the papers to go and go get the stuff, but no one still was able to go. She never once said that this was money loaned to go get it.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, she had designated it to go and get the property.
Yes.
And you didn't use it to go and get the property.
I used it towards the storage.
No.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No.
The answer is no.
No.
So that's what her complaint is, that it wasn't used for its intended purpose, which was to go rent a truck, movers, and bring the property to where you both live. Okay, and she did give you $800.
Yes.
Okay, and Miss Bentley, you're prepared to sign a document that indicates that the only property you want from storage is a photograph of you and your mother that's in a photo album.
Yes.
That you want nothing else, that everything else belongs to either your sister or any other heirs that have a legitimate claim on any of that property, but you want nothing else.
That's fine.
Reasonable?
Fine.
Perfect. I'm entering a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $800 with the proviso that the plaintiff will, in fact, sign that document indicating she wants nothing but one photograph from the storage unit.
I gave her $150 back.
Did she give you $150 back?
She did give me $150
Okay.
back.
You paid her back. So she goes, you're $650. Judgment for the plaintiff, $650. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
It was my mother's stuff. I just was trying to get the stuff. It was in storage for long enough.
We haven't talked in a whole year.
We're not close.
You know, all she wanted is a picture. I give her a picture.
At least I got what I wanted.
We still sisters, still love her.
Those look like two nice sisters. And I think part of that problem is the intervention of COVID, which really turned everybody's life upside down.
Especially family units.
Family units, because I think that was the intention, that she was going to pay for it to all be brought up, use that money, and then they would go through the property and decide who wanted what and what would be disposed of. It's not an egregious case of misappropriation of funds.
All well-intentioned, I think.
Well-intentioned. I thought it was a sweet case.
Case 2111, Banks versus Mitchell. All parties, please. Case 2124, McPherson versus Hall. All parties, please step forward.
Gerald McPherson is suing his ex-girlfriend, Natasha Hall, for money she received during their relationship.
Mr. McPherson,
Yes.
how old are you, sir?
40.
What kind of work do you do?
Home care aid?
Independent, or do you work for a company?
Home care aid agency.
For an agency?
Yes.
How long have you been working for them?
About a year now, but I've been doing home care for about 3 years.
Prior to working for them the past year, and you're still working for them, is that right? Was there a period of time when you were unemployed?
Not more than maybe 3 weeks, but since I know Ms. Hall...
No, I don't want to know about Ms. Hall.
No, I'm telling you my employments that since I've lived in her residence, I've always worked. I've worked at the zoo, Census Bureau.
Don't try to think ahead of me.
Okay.
There was a period of time in 2020, according to you, that you became homeless and were living in a shelter.
Yeah,
and that was in what month in 2020?
In June. So if I can explain the situation. I was living in a house that a slumlord wasn't doing the repairs. So I ended up forcing his hand, him selling the property, and the new landlord and my...
Could you look at me when you're talking?
I'm sorry. The new landlord and her and my other ex, they kept the property. I moved out. I went to a shelter because I didn't want nothing to do with her or the...
You're talking about her?
No, ma'am.
Well, then don't keep pointing to her. I'm asking you...
I'm just pointing in general. I'm not pointing at her.
You actually pointed
I'm sorry.
to her. When you were in the shelter, were you employed?
Yes, for the Census Bureau, doing the census. I was actually out on the field knocking on doors. I was an enumerator.
So you were not working in home health care, you were a census taker?
At that time, yes.
And did you have a child living with you?
Yes, well, not in the shelter, no. I could not have my daughter in the shelter.
How old is your daughter?
10.
And where is her mother?
She's deceased.
Where was your daughter living when you were in the shelter?
With my mother.
Is she living with you now?
She's been with me since June.
In a new apartment?
Yes, I moved in August 1st.
She goes to school from your apartment?
Yes.
Okay. In 2020, you became acquainted with Miss Hall, and there came a time shortly thereafter, uncross your arms, and there came a point shortly thereafter when you moved into her home.
In August, yes.
Of 2020. And you remained in her home until what month and year?
August of 2022.
And in what month and year did you regain custody of your daughter?
June of 2022.
So there was a period of 2 months when you and your daughter lived in Miss Hall's home.
You could say that, but...
Well, I'm saying that because I just asked you a question about timeline.
No, because me and Miss Hall was going through our dispute about this money, my daughter was staying with my grandma. I only brought my daughter there on certain occasions.
When I say you regained custody of your daughter, was that a court order?
Yes, I have it right here.
Just a second. Was the child removed by court order from your custody?
It was removed because the house...
Don't tell me because.
Yes,
it was yes.
Yes.
I have lots of things to do today.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Child was removed from your custody.
Because I didn't have nowhere to live at the time.
Was the child removed from your custody before you moved into the shelter?
She was removed because I was in the shelter.
Did you take her to the shelter?
No, I was not allowed to because there's no men.
So at that time,
female
did she go and live with your mother?
Of course.
Was that by court order?
No, it was, I
brought her to your mother?
Yes.
May I see the court order that involves custody, please?
Here you go.
I'm not getting an answer.
This is the court order, and this is these two forms. Now, that court order is the current.
Okay, so the child was placed with the Commission of Social Services in Pennsylvania. And the child was placed in kinship foster care, which is a program that I am very familiar with the child's paternal grandmothers. So in June of this year, the child was returned to your custody. At some point in August of this year is when you and the defendants separated and you left the house. This is your claim. Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. What kind of gambling thing?
Gerald McPherson claims his ex-girlfriend, Natasha Hall, wrongfully spent the money he gave her for rent.
Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. What kind of gambling thing? I want you to look at me when you talk, not at the papers.
No, I was going to...
In what kind of gambling thing did you win money?
I betted on 25 games.
What 25 games?
NBA, college, hockey.
Okay, and you bet where?
On FanDuel. It's an app called FanDuel.
Okay, and you won?
Yes.
I don't understand the whole thing. I don't want to learn the whole thing. I don't care about the whole thing. I just want you to tell me how much you won.
Before taxes or after?
Both.
Okay, $36,742, and after taxes, $26,889.
On what date?
So I won the bet on the 28th. It came into my account.
28th of what?
January.
Of what year?
This year.
And you had been living with Miss Hall for 2 years?
Prior, yes.
Okay, and you were working according to you all of that time?
Yes.
Okay, good. Were you paying any rent to Miss Hall?
I have receipts.
Yes, I want to see those. How much rent were you paying?
So when I met Miss Hall...
I don't want to go back to the year, Gimmel, sir. All I want you to do is tell me how much rent you were paying her.
To be honest, I had to pay
I don't know. I want you to
rent.
be dishonest with me.
Half her rent is like $425, and she had me pay half the gas and half the electric and half the cable.
Her rent was $425?
No, it's $850. I had to split it. We're paying half and half.
Miss Hall?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I do customer service.
And who else lives in the apartment with you?
My children.
How old are they?
14 and 13.
How large is the apartment?
It's a 2-bedroom.
And the total rent is $850?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no subsidy involved?
No subsidy at all.
Okay. And you have a lease?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you charge, if anything, Mr. McPherson as rent?
$425.
Well, that doesn't quite sound fair, does it? Did she make a figure with you of $425?
I paid more than that. I paid $425. That's half of the rent. I paid half of the electric and half of the internet bill.
There are 4 people in the house?
Yes.
Right? Why is he paying for...
only
Why was he paying for half the rent?
Oh, my children don't work, and his child didn't work either.
His child wasn't with you?
The child came with us in June, but she had visitations on weekends.
I don't care if she has visitations. Your children live with you.
Yes.
They don't have to work. They're your children. They're not his responsibility. Okay. I just want to know where everybody's head is at. There came a point, Miss Hall, when Mr. McPherson gave you $6,000 in cash.
No, not in cash.
Check.
No. Both of them were wired. One was directly wired into our Bank of America account.
When? Just a second. When?
The first transaction was on January 31st. The second transaction...
January 31st of?
This year. And the second transaction was the next day, February 1st. $12,000 total.
Do you acknowledge Miss Hall receiving $12,000 in your account from Mr. McPherson, or do I have to look at his records?
I do not acknowledge. He gave me $6,000 and $4,500.
$6,000 and $4,500, Mr. McPherson. Does that sound right?
No, it's not right, and I'm going to show you.
Let me see your bank record.
All right, hey,
and
sir.
Let us assume that it's $6,000 and $4,500 that he gave you in this year, 2022.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Let us assume for the moment that you're correct, because you're suing for $6,000.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because the first initial $6,000 was 8 months' rent. That I'm not.
Let us assume that you are correct, that he gave you $6,000 and $4,500. I'm taking you at face value. In January and February of 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the money for?
That he gave me?
Yes. The two different amounts of money.
yes.
There's a $6,000 and a $4,500.
$4,500 was for me to pay my car note off. And
Hey, just a second.
Go ahead.
Why would he pay your car note off?
He said he wanted to.
Oh, no. That's ridiculous. Miss Hall, let me just check.
Can I say something?
No.
He even wrote that on there for your car note.
No, you said in January he won a bet and cashed it out. A few days later, he gave me money via Cash App to catch up on his rent and as a thank you for helping him out. I don't see anything here about gift for a car note in your answer.
So he gave me the money for the car note, and as far as the cat money, lots of times. So yes,
No, I'm talking about the $6,000, madam.
Yes.
Let us assume he gave you $4,500 to pay off your car note. That's what you said.
Correct.
What's the $6,000 for?
The $6,000 was for us to move.
For who to move?
Me and him.
Show me.
The $6,000?
Yeah, show me that there's proof. He says he gave you the money according to his complaint to hold for him.
Yes.
Shh. Just a second. Yeah, February 3rd, he gave you $6,000. This just says he gave it to you.
Yes.
And?
And he told me to hold it so we can move.
Well, you didn't move.
No,
you didn't. Shh. He told you to hold it for him so that you could all move.
No.
So who could move?
So me and him and our children could move.
Well, that's what I just said.
I apologize.
So that we can move.
Correct.
But you didn't move together.
Correct.
So you have to give him his money back. That's simple. Just a second. That's simple. If you say he gave you the money so that the two of you could move and that event never took place, but he in fact moved out, you owe him $6,000.
But then he agreed.
Just a second. That's an easy. Okay. Do I have to deal with anything else? Money for lost wages, rent, utilities? Forget it. He paid all of that with the $4,500 when he paid off your car note. Come on, let's get it together. Lost wages. What are the lost wages for?
But then I had to take off from work because of the PFA, and I had to take off from work to go file out the court and things like that. But in the midst of him saying the $6,000, he didn't pay rent. He didn't pay all of his rent.
He paid off your car note. You owe him $6,000. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Okay.
This court is adjourned.
Well, I don't agree with the judge's decision. I don't think I owe him the money.
That's what women do.
Because he gave me a gift and he didn't pay rent.
I also spent $2,000 on her in gifts.
What's done is done.
I'm taking a break from women for quite some time now.
So I'm glad that the plaintiff's daughter didn't have to go into the larger foster care system and was able to stay with plaintiff's mother. But I was curious that if this was a temporary slip up and he wasn't going to be permanently without housing, why wouldn't he go with his daughter to his mother's house? I was surprised you didn't ask him that question.
You're right. You're right. That's a curious question.
To me, it just seemed like it might have been a better situation to crash at your mom's house with your daughter
With
for
your
a while,
daughter.
but
I'm not sure whether I have that whole story because they continued the child in care for a period of time, at least for almost 2 years, because he didn't have custody of her while he was living with the defendant.
well, one easy part of the case was that he was owed his $6,000 back.
That's
all
that
we
was
had to deal with.
Yeah, that was easy. Once she got her hands on that $6,000 and he was no longer in the picture, it was hard for her to give up.
Christian Sanchez is suing his former employer, Juan Vasquez, for unpaid work and defamation of character.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2007, Sanchez versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Sanchez, how old are you, sir?
I'm 26 years old.
And what is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree in film that I got from Full Sail University. I'm currently...
Slowly.
I'm sorry.
You have a bachelor's degree from?
Full Sail University.
Where is that?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. That I can hear. You have to understand, when you're dealing with someone of my age, you have to sort of factor that into your speech. People who are 26 may be able to follow you. I'm senior. I need people to speak slowly so that I can follow them.
I got you.
So you got a bachelor's degree from a university in Florida and graduated when?
I graduated in 2018.
And from there, what kind of work did you do?
From there, I jumped around a little bit. I did
Okay,
work...
you jumped around. Did your family live in Florida?
No, ma'am.
Where do they live?
They live in Beaumont, Texas.
Did you live with them at all in Beaumont?
No, ma'am.
After college?
Not until the pandemic.
Okay. Well, the pandemic was in 2020.
Yes.
So you graduated in June of 2018, and then the pandemic started on or about March of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And in March of 2020, you went home to your parents' house.
Yes.
And you stayed there until when?
I'm still currently there. I started going back to school, actually.
When did you start going back to school?
My first classes were in December of last year.
In Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So you actually had a year and a half out of school when you were hopping around.
Yes, ma'am.
So I want you to tell me who you worked for in that year and a half.
I was an intern on a documentary.
Okay, and when was that?
That was about a few months after I graduated.
So maybe September, October?
Yeah, probably around there. I did a few independent films.
Okay, and what kind of work did you do for them?
Just kind of depended what they needed. It was mostly
Like a
PA
PA?
stuff. Yeah.
Like a PA. And for that work, were you paid as a PA?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much were you paid as a PA?
They paid me $75 a day.
Pay you in cash?
They paid me in cash.
Okay, so you did those couple of little projects, and then what?
I was also waiting tables at the time.
Okay, well, you got to eat.
Right. After the pandemic hit, my lease was up. I moved back home. Decided I would go back to school to get a tech job. I'm going for cybersecurity right now. I had heard through a family friend.
Okay, let's stop there. This case is, I don't think so difficult, but relatively interesting for me because we don't get them all the time. Mr. Vasquez, you were making a movie.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this the first movie you ever made?
No, Your Honor.
How many movies have you made?
This was film number 5 for me. Written, directed, produced.
Is it a fiction piece or a documentary?
It's actually based on a true story.
So it's a docudrama?
Correct, yes.
See that? Are you impressed with that? There you go, a docudrama. How long a film?
90 to 100 minutes. We're still in post, still editing. So
Keep your voice up. Approximately how long?
100 minutes.
What was your budget?
It's still in
About what was your budget? Then you're going to tell me where you got the financing.
roughly 120,000.
Where did you get the money from?
A lot of it was my money and other producers.
How much did you put in?
Over 80,000.
And you've got other people in for about 40.
Yeah.
Did you make money on your other films?
I have, yes, in the past.
Okay, this is what the case is about. Mr. Sanchez says that he was hired by your company. And he was hired by your company to work on this last film that you were doing. And it was a paying job. And at the end of the period, he was not paid. And in addition, he says that when he complained about not being paid, you put out there on social media that you weren't paying him because he was on drugs. Is that what the case is basically about?
Basically. It wasn't on social media. It was through text messages. He accused me of it, but...
Text messages?
Yes.
Well, that to me is almost social media. If it doesn't come to me by the U.S. Postal Service, I call it social media. I know. Okay. Did you answer an ad for this job?
No, I heard about it through a family friend.
And when did you meet Mr. Vasquez for the first time?
We didn't actually meet face-to-face until about Saturday, July 10th, 2021.
Did you communicate via text messages or
Yes, ma'am.
emails? Well, when was the first either text message or email?
The first text message was on Monday, the 28th, 2021 of June.
6/28, 2021. May I see that, please?
Of course. And this one, too. Sorry.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So you first met by email. You say you have one spot available for him as an internship, and then practically immediately thereafter, you say somebody's family is sick in the crew. You have a spot for him as an assistant director.
So, Your Honor.
I'm reading this. Well, you have to tell me what that means. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick and they can't do it.
Correct.
So what is an AD?
He's basically going to assist me as a director, everything from...
Assistant to the director.
Correct.
Okay. Yes. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick. So that's different from an internship.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, we do have internships where people don't get paid, and then you have internships where they do get paid. Most people now pay their interns. Okay. And when you met, because clearly the last email that I just read suggests that you were approaching the door and you're 2 minutes away, and then you met the defendant. Tell me about that conversation.
Claims filmmaker Juan Vasquez owes him for unpaid work. One says Christian was an unpaid intern.
Okay, and when you met, because clearly the last email that I just read suggests that you were approaching the door and you're 2 minutes away, and then you met the defendant. Tell me about that conversation.
So we met, we sat down. I kind of told him a little bit about my background, like I told you before. He kind of went over like what he was expecting me to do.
Just a second. I want you to tell me what he told you that he wanted you to do.
Managing the set, creating schedules, calling extras, making sure that they were there on time.
Is that what you told him?
Yes, basically assisting me whatever I needed.
Okay, that sounds like more than a PA.
We didn't ask for PAs.
No, but what you outlined was clearly more. What did you agree to pay him?
Never agreed to pay him anything. So
Well, how could you do that?
he was an intern. He was presented to me as an intern.
No, not after this text message. He said he was looking for an internship, and you said to him, I have a better role for you. I need a first AD. Someone's family is sick. Whose family was sick? The name of the person.
I don't recall.
Okay. When you did a budget, did you have a budget for a first AD?
No, we didn't.
Careful. Did you have a budget for a first AD?
No, not that I remember. I usually don't use a first AD. So the terminology.
No. Listen, you know who produces this show? You want to be careful with what you say around people, who are buying your product.
Sure.
Right? Because you're going to be presenting them with budgets, eventually, hopefully for you. There's no question that if I got this text from you, Mr. Vasquez, I would say, oh my God, I'm going to get a different job, a better role, because he says I have a much better thing. Somebody who was supposed to do it got sick, they can't do it. That's a much different thing from what you describe as bringing me iced tea and setting up the coffee. That's a different role. What did he tell you he was going to pay you, sir?
He told me, verbally, he told me that...
Look, careful when you talk to me. At that meeting, that day, what did he tell you he was going to pay you?
$150 per day for 14 days.
How many days did you actually work on the set?
On the set, I worked 14 days.
It's a lie.
I got COVID on the last 2 days, and he asked me to work from home. And I still scheduled and did all that stuff.
I never asked him to work from home.
You got COVID the last 2 days, so you were actually there 12 days.
Physically there, but I was still working for him.
Who knows? How do I know that?
I have text.
I would like to see the work that you did from home on day 13 and 14.
1,800 for 12 days, not including.
Okay.
On those specific days, I have it on my phone. Could I pull it up?
No, I want to see what you did. If you did work, you sent emails out, you sent scheduling out, and you would probably have to have a conversation with your boss and say, I have COVID, but I'll do whatever I could do from home.
I have all of that.
I'd like to see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if I may interject.
Yeah.
So he shows up to the set sick with COVID, gets everybody sick. I had to call the next day of filming because of that.
Are you talking about after he was there for 12 days?
Yes, I'm talking about that particular part, but
I'm talking about he was there for 12 days. He didn't have COVID for 12 days.
we don't know that.
Well, who knows that? I don't know if you have COVID.
We just got tested, Your Honor.
Who knows if you have COVID? Who knows if I have COVID? All I know is I came to work today. I expect to be paid. I wouldn't come to work if I was sick and laying in bed and feeling nauseous and...
Your Honor, if you had a remote position, that'd be different. He didn't have a remote position.
I'm not talking about his 2 days. He was there 12 days.
He did it throughout the course of the project. He was never on time.
I don't care if he was never on time. If he was never on time, sir, then you fire him.
There was days he was not on set.
Listen to me.
Okay.
If he's never on time, then you tell him don't come back after the second day. But if you let him come for 12 days and do whatever he does, I mean, Mr. Vasquez, I'm going to make this as painless for you as possible. There are some employees that I have had over the years that were terrific. Some not so terrific, some terrible. The terrible ones who were really terrible, who I would have liked to have fired, period, I couldn't do it because of human resources.
Sure.
They have a whole protocol, volumes, like an Encyclopedia Britannica, what you have to go through to fire somebody who's not doing their job.
Right.
But you have to pay him until you can fire him. If you have him come to work, even if he's doing a terrible job, you still have to pay him. Now, if he goes home because he's sick and you're not giving him sick leave and you don't agree for him to work remotely, that's on him. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so glad. Unless, of course, you agree to have him work remotely. Then you have to pay him for 14 days.
Right.
It starts right there, Your Honor, and then the next 2 days follow it.
JV, that's you?
Yes, ma'am.
JV, that's you. So you did, in fact, confer with him from home. Tell him to order food, to picking it up. I don't care if he worked for you for a half hour. He's not your friend. The thing that I find most troubling here, actually, for the both of you, is he says that you told him not to tell the rest of the crew that he had COVID because they would freak out.
Correct.
And he didn't tell the rest of the crew
As far
that
as
he
I
had
know.
COVID. Well, you told him not to. And he said, okay. Well, you have to know, as a good citizen, that's not the right thing to do. You do understand that.
And, by not having him on the set, we thought that was proper protocol.
No, you're supposed to notify people who you came into close contact with. I remember they had this whole contact tracing. I know people call all the time
The
and say,
reality is, Your
we
Honor,
were out
everybody that
together
was
a month
on
ago.
the set.
What?
The reality is, everybody that was on the set, we did discuss the fact that he had COVID, so people knew that.
I don't care whether people knew that. It says here, I won't say anything to the rest of the crew, like you said.
Yeah, because
I
didn't want
understand
to
that you don't want everyone to freak out. I just find that troubling. In any event,
it's just
he
like
clearly
yelling bomb in an airport. That would have created a bigger hysteria.
Well, that's what COVID is. COVID is a bomb in an
We
airport.
conveyed to everybody on the set what was going on. The reality is, this man was presented as an intern, never said paid internship. Once he got on the set, he tried to strong arm us, then demanded the money once he had all the information on the set. We didn't hire him. We didn't post a job for him. We made a job for him because a producer called me up. This is when nepotism goes bad. This kid couldn't even order pizza, Your Honor. He spent $300 at Domino's. Who spends $300 at Domino's?
Mr. Vasquez, then you fire him.
I should have
Do you
fired him.
understand?
I should have fired him.
Then your recourse is to fire him. And you're a little company that doesn't have an HR department. Say, you know what? What's your first name?
Christian.
Christian, you're a nice guy, but it's not working out here. We're going to pay you for 3 days because that's what you were here. Don't come back. I'm going to get somebody else.
And we should do that, Your Honor.
But that's what you should have done.
Yes.
But that's not what you did. You continued to use whatever limited services he provided, even when he was home with
limited,
COVID.
yes.
Even when he went home with COVID, you continued to ask him to do things for your company and for the film, and that you can't do without compensating him.
Sanchez has accused his former employer, Juan Vasquez, of not paying him for 14 days of work. Juan claims Christian was incompetent and never a paid employee.
Okay, even when he went home with COVID, you continued to ask him to do things for your company and for the film, and that you can't do without compensating him. You can't. Okay, so you owe him $2,100 because I assume you paid him nothing. Now, let's get to the second part of your claim, which is defamation. That I'd like to see. I mean, if you're going to be a producer, if you're going to make films, sir, you have to understand. Say you're not working out, you're fired. Something that I would love to be able to say a lot.
I agree.
You're not
I
working
should
out,
have
you're
fired him
fired
right away.
without
That's never-
risking my house and my car and my dog.
I was taking him on as a basically.
I don't care what you were thinking.
Producer
That's
called
not what
me,
you said.
asked me to take him on. That's why I took him on.
He actually called me and told me how
Just
good
a
of a
second.
job I was doing.
It doesn't require an answer. Okay.
And I can show the messages how he came to be on the set. He was presented.
I don't.
presented
Just a
as-
second. I don't care how he was presented to you. If your Aunt Tilly said, "Do me a favor, this is my godson."
It was his Aunt Tilly.
He hasn't been able to get a job since he graduated from college.
He hasn't made
He's
a job
home.
since he graduated.
He's home in the attic of his parents' house playing the
Lives with his
guitar.
parents.
We want him to have a job. It's irrelevant. You gave him a job, and if he didn't work out, say, what was the name of that woman from that show that says you're fired or something? Well, anyway, you say you're fired. That's easy. Do we remember the name of that woman from England who had a show where she said, "You're out, get out"? I don't know. She was terrific. Let me see.
The weakest link.
Weakest link. That was the lady. Perfect. Thank you.
And that's a direct text message to him. I never posted on social media.
Oh.
It was actually a group text.
Just a second. So, Mr. Vasquez, in here, you say to him, this is the second part of his case, which is for defamation. And That's okay. He didn't defame you.
Okay.
Sir, he said they're taking you out of the credits, but you were never promised credits.
In the contract, it says I am.
Let me see where in the contract it said you'd be in the credits. And I didn't even know there was a contract. I thought
He's
you had
also done this before.
Shh,
oh, wait.
shh, shh. It says you employed him as an actor.
Your Honor, I'm signing actor agreements every day. He put that in front of me to sign. Why would I sign an actor agreement for a first AD?
Just a second. Sir, is this the agreement he put in front of you? Or did you?
I sign actor agreements every day on the...
You're a business guy.
Yeah.
I'm a business lady.
That looked like an actor agreement.
Sign
That's why I signed it.
actor agreement. That's what it says.
Yeah. He's not an actor.
Don't sign it. It says you agreed to pay him $150 a day for 4 days of shooting.
14.
14 days of shooting. And that he will be responsible for paying all the taxes on it. So he was going to be paid.
I didn't write that out, Your Honor.
Kevin, would you show this to him, please, and see if he can identify that as his signature? I'm going to check here to see if it's his signature. It looks like his signature to me. Mr. Vasquez, it appears to be the same signature that you used to sign the answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
So that's your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and this says, actor shall receive a credit for acting in the film. Well, that's ridiculous. You didn't act in the film, right?
No, ma'am.
Well, we're going to strike that out because you can't perform that because you didn't act in the movie. Do you understand?
I understand, ma'am.
Okay, very good. And it's clear that whatever this says, based upon this, if you delete one part of a contract, let me see if I remember, if part of a contract, Sarah, is impossible to perform,
Then it's not fully integrated.
and one party acts on that contract, and you can retain part of the contract because of services that were rendered pursuant to the contract, you can eliminate one part.
Yes.
So I can eliminate the actor part of getting credit. So you're not getting credit on this, you're entitled to the $150 a day. As far as the defamation is concerned, sir, what he said in here was clear. He said he was told by someone else, which is very possible. And the only thing that you can produce for me today is this fellow who said you tried to put together a little bit of a drug transaction. Are you?
No.
Well, then you're irrelevant. You can produce, because if he says, told me, then he's not saying you did this. He put it in a text to you that this is what he was told.
retaliation whenever I served him the night before. The very next morning, he sent me that text message.
I don't care. I don't care. He's not a great businessman. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. Thank you very much. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
I thought she was very fair. I'm really, really happy with how the judgment came out.
He was an intern. Interns aren't paid. It never said paid internship.
He tried to avoid signing a contract at first.
The reality is, with a budget, we would love to pay the kid, but he cost us more money than he was actually worth.
He lies constantly. Nothing's ever his fault. He always makes up a new scenario in which he's the victim.
He couldn't even order pizza. I mean, who spends $300 at Domino's?
Handed me the actor's agreement, told me to sign it.
No more nepotism. If I don't know him, I've embedded him. I don't want them on the project.
A little bit weird, but it had everything.
And this kid is going to go be a cybersecurity guy.
Always save your receipts, dude. Always just keep any sort of communications, even if it's a phone call, send a text or an email that just recaps what you said.
I was so happy to vent for a moment on the current inability to fire inept people and to fire people who aren't doing their job, which has been getting worse over the last quarter century. I actually believe that HR is a vital service for people who are unjustly, based on something other than their performance, treated badly by an employer. Mm-hmm. And harassment in the workplace, I think, is important. Anyway, I got that out of my system. The contract.
Yeah, the contract. I think it was unenforceable to begin because I think the form was clearly erroneous. It wasn't the proper form. He wasn't an actor. Both of them knew he wasn't an actor. Right. However, it was signed by both parties, and there was substantial performance on behalf of the plaintiff by showing up to work every day, performing his duties under the contract. So as soon as he substantially performed the contract, the defendant can't then claim it's unenforceable.
First of all, because he's not an actor.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Moss is suing his former friend, Nadine Drury, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Be seated, everybody.
Hello, Judge.
How are you, Kevin?
Case number 2015, Moss versus Jury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Moss, prior to leasing an apartment with the defendant. Had you known each other?
Sort of.
Tell me a sort of.
So we met one time about a year prior. We have mutual friends, one of which had asked me to get ordained to marry her and her husband. So I flew in town to do that, and Nadine was there at their house when I flew in. We saw each other for a few minutes, and that's actually the only time we've ever met in person.
And there came a time when you were looking for an apartment where?
I was looking for an apartment in the Salt Lake area.
And where had you been living?
In Seattle.
And where were you living, Miss Jury?
In Salt Lake City.
You were looking to move?
Yes.
So other than that one-time meeting when you were officiating at a mutual friend's wedding you hadn't met before, but somebody suggested that you were looking for an apartment, you were looking for a new apartment, and perhaps you could rent an apartment together.
Yes, that's
fair statement?
In fact.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in what month and year did that happen?
It would have been in October of 2020 that this arrangement sort of came to be like, hey, maybe you should see if Nadine...
Okay, but you did, in fact, sign a lease together. Who found the apartment?
Nadine did.
You did. Prior to signing the lease, Mr. Moss, had you seen the apartment?
No.
No is the answer. Did you ever see the apartment, other than videos or photographs of it?
No, I never saw
Prior to signing the lease?
Correct.
Also correct?
Correct.
On what date was the lease signed?
On the 7th of November of 2020.
The rent on the apartment was how much?
It was $585 a month each.
$1,170, Your Honor.
So $585 per month each. You both signed it on the same day. Did you move in?
I did.
On what date?
November 8th.
And you were still in Seattle?
Correct.
Did you ever move into the apartment?
Never.
Okay. And that is also correct?
Correct.
Because for whatever reason you decided to stay in Seattle?
Correct.
Is that work-related or socially?
Social.
And then you contacted her and told her that you weren't intending to move in.
Correct.
But that you would continue to pay your half of the rent. Is that also correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you were making a direct deposit to the account to pay the rent?
Yeah, it was an automatic payment from my account to the rental.
To the rental office?
Yes, to the rental office.
Then you came to find that Miss Jury had stopped paying her portion of the rent. When did you stop making payments on your portion of the rent?
In January.
So you paid either full or partial for November because you moved in on the 8th, and you paid December's rent.
Correct.
And you stopped paying rent in January. Why?
I lost my job in December of 2020.
So I'm going to outline now what this case is about.
Yes.
Mr. Moss continued paying his half of the rent until you found a roommate.
Correct.
And you found a roommate when?
I believe I found him in February, and he moved in the month of March and started paying his half of the rent.
So you didn't pay rent January or February?
Correct.
2 months?
Correct.
And you had no work?
Correct.
When you found out that the rent wasn't being paid, according to you, in order to not impact your credit, you spoke to her. She said, I don't have a job. You said, I can help you out. I'll send you money. Mm-hmm. Is that generally what happened? Then I'll get into...
That's generally what happened, but there is a little more detail to it.
I'm going to let you get to the details.
All right.
And you want that money back. The money that you advanced her in her time of need, which was how much in total?
The total is $3,360. She did at some point pay me $300 back, so the amount I am seeking is $3,060.
Okay. Are those figures accurate?
Yes.
And he gave you that money, not because you were good friends, because you were a relative. He had met you one time.
Right.
And he had, in fact, said to you, I will continue to pay my rent, even though I know you from hole in the wall. I will continue because I signed this lease until you find someone to get me off the lease.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your defense, it seems to me, to this action is that he was really trying to scam the government by depleting his bank account so he could collect food stamps or whatever.
No.
And as a result of that, because he wasn't being honest with the government, you shouldn't have to pay him back. I just want to know if that's what I'm reading correctly.
There was never an agreement
to
pay back.
That's a different story. I'm going to read this over because, you know, I'm getting elderly, and I may not have recalled exactly what you said in your answer. It doesn't say that here. It says several months later, it's after you found a new roommate, Emmett randomly reached out to me saying that I owed him money and demanded that I take out a personal loan to pay it. I refused. Emmett has some nerve. Not only did he break the lease, well, what difference does that make to you? He still was paying his half of the rent. So now you had a whole apartment by yourself and he was paying the rent, right? So why does he have some nerve? But he took advantage of me and used me to scam the system. So that's what I understand your defense is.
It is. I have video evidence, Your Honor.
Video of what?
Of Emmett.
Of Emmett what?
Of Emmett explaining why he was trying to get on assistance and how he was like, it's fine for you to pay rent with this money because I'm trying to empty my bank account so that I can get on food stamps.
It is true.
Okay, just a second. Just a second. Let's say that's true. He's going. I'm just trying to. Shh.
Owes for unpaid loans. Nadine says Emmett broke the lease they were both on.
I'm just trying to get your mindset. You know, I hate people who scam the system. But you got this money from him. And your defense is that he was trying to scam somebody else, so you shouldn't really have to pay him back, even though it was his money.
It was his money.
It was his money that he took out of his bank and gave to you.
Right.
For no reason.
That I never agreed to pay back for a lease that he was legally on. He's responsible for that rent money no matter what.
You mean so you get to live there free?
No,
Well, just a second. So you get to live there free. If he paid for it for the months that you didn't, you got to live there free. He wasn't even living there. It's not as if he was living there and you didn't get to live there free. You lived there alone. And he was paying the rent.
Yes.
Well, why do you think you're not responsible for that once you get back on your feet?
We never talked about a repayment.
No.
That's not
okay. Now,
we definitely talked about repayment.
Now, I want you to explain to me and be very careful because, you know, I've been in this system a very long time. So I know about social services and I know about the system and I know about welfare and I know about food stamps. I know all about that. So you contact her.
Yes.
And she tells you she lost her job.
Yes.
Let's pick it up from there.
Okay. So I found out through the payment portal that she hadn't paid rent.
Yeah, we're past that.
Okay.
We're
I
past
contacted
that.
her about that. Well, there was.
Don't look up.
Apologies. I sent her money that night.
No. You contacted the portal, and then you had to have had a conversation with her.
Right.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory. Let's start with you contacted the portal and you found out she hadn't been paying her rent. That was in January.
Correct. January the 2nd.
And January she hadn't paid rent and you called her and she said to you...
She said to me that she didn't have money to pay, which I was aware of because she had previously told me that she... I was aware that she had lost her job.
Just a second. How did you become aware that she had lost her job?
Because we were friendly with each other. We were talking several times a week via Facebook Messenger.
Fine. You knew that she lost her job.
Yes.
And I assume you knew if she lost her job and you were speaking several times a week. Let's be very careful. This isn't just calling the pay portal and finding out that this stranger who you met once wasn't paying her rent. You were speaking and you knew that she had fallen on difficult times. And?
I did. I didn't...
Don't go up here. Right here.
I didn't know that she wasn't going to pay rent on time.
No, just a second. You didn't know what?
On the 2nd was when I found out that the rent hadn't been paid.
On the 2nd of January?
On the 2nd of January.
Just look at me. On the 2nd of January, you found out the rent hadn't been paid. What did you do?
So I called Nadine to ask about it, and she told me that she didn't have the money. And so I said, okay, I have these extra funds because I, at the time, was also unemployed. I had been taking payments, unemployment payments, and then the COVID payments.
And what?
The extra payments for COVID on top of unemployment, because this was 2020.
Welcome to Inflation 101.
Right. So all of my payments had been late and had come in a lump sum. So that is why I had extra
So your
money.
Unemployment and your COVID funds came in one lump sum.
Correct.
And I want you to think very, very carefully. And you're living where, sir?
Seattle.
With whom?
At the time, I was seeking a roommate.
No. Where were you living?
So I was living in Seattle.
In Seattle with whom?
No one.
By yourself?
Yes. Technically, someone was paying rent because they had moved out.
You're looking up at the sky.
Sorry.
Don't look up at the sky. So somebody had moved out of their apartment,
Yeah.
which had been prepaid in rent.
Yes.
So you were living there rent-free.
No. This was my apartment that I lived in for 3 years. And someone else had moved in and then moved out. And they broke the lease, not me.
They broke the lease, but they paid the rent.
Correct. They paid their half. I was still paying my half of rent. I never defaulted on my rental payments in Seattle ever.
And they were still paying theirs.
Yes, so we were both each paying our respective parts of the rent. And I was paying rent in Utah.
And you were paying rent where the defendant was living. Okay. So I want you to think very carefully. When you got your unemployment and your extra COVID money in a lump sum, how much did you get?
What?
No, don't look over there. You know exactly how much you got.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about it. Just give me a number.
$10,000.
Well, that should last you for a little bit. And you got $10,000 on what date?
I don't remember.
Month.
It would have been in November.
Okay, so now she's run out of funds, and you say to her, go ahead.
By the time we get to January, I do not have $10,000. I have much less because of other circumstances.
Like what?
Like needing to purchase a car for the girlfriend that I stayed in town.
A car?
Yes.
What else?
Rental payments. That's it. Nothing.
You bought your girlfriend a car?
I did. Her car that she had was a beater, and it was
care.
unsafe.
I don't care. What about your car?
I did use a down. I furnished the down payment for the car.
Okay, so you bought 2 cars?
No, just one. I didn't have a vehicle at the time.
Oh, I'm not believing you, sir. I'm really not buying this whole story. You're living by yourself with a roommate. The roommate moves out. Your girlfriend had a terrible car. You don't live with the girlfriend.
Don't.
But you bought her a car. You didn't have a car, but you bought her a car.
I had, if we need to back it up, I had given up my car in a bankruptcy earlier in the year because of...
In whose bankruptcy?
My bankruptcy.
Your bankruptcy.
That is why I didn't have a...
It's getting better all the time. Okie dokie.
It was an interesting year.
That doesn't mean you don't owe money. It just means I have to know the characters that I'm dealing with.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
Emmett Moss has accused his former friend, Nadine Drury, of refusing to pay back loans. Nadine claims she was used by Emmett to scam the government.
So now you've got much less money from the $10,000. You bought your girlfriend a car, you had to pay her rent, you paid your own rent, you had other things from bankruptcies that you had before, so you have a little bit of money left in the bank.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
don't look over there, right here. No, look,
on that evening of the 2nd, I paid Nadine a total of $710, enough to cover the rent of $585, any fees it would cost her to go and withdraw that money from the bank, and she also asked for extra money for groceries.
Just a second. You acknowledge a $3,000 amount of money that he gave you. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
You say that that's correct.
That includes the money that he's saying that he spent on rent, that he gave me for rent, and he's also asking for his deposit.
I am asking for my deposit.
The deposit for the apartment back.
Okay, well, he's entitled to that. You have a new roommate who I'm sure you got a deposit from.
She chose to not.
And if you didn't?
Collect a deposit from
What?
the roommate.
Well, that's her problem because she's going to get the deposit back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's reasonable. She's going to get the deposit back when she leaves. When you leave, if you leave the place in good condition, he was never living there, so if you don't leave it in good condition, then it's on you. I want to know about this video that she wants me to look at, where you tell her some sort of a scheme you have to get more money from the government.
It wasn't a scheme.
Why don't you tell me about it? So far, we got $10,000 that was supposed to last you for 6 months, and you blew it on a car for your girlfriend. And so you may not call it a scheme. I want you to tell me why you had to have a zero bank account.
I didn't have to have a zero bank account.
A more limited access to money. What were you applying for, sir?
So
not so up here, so here.
Okay. I was applying for a program to go into the trades. So it was like a work-study program, like electrician, plumber, that sort of thing. And again, I didn't have a job, and unemployment had completely stopped. And as far
How many years did you collect unemployment?
It was less than 1 year.
How many years had you worked?
How many years have I worked?
Yeah.
I've been working since I was 16. So
Well,
it's
I'm
been
surprised
14.
the unemployment totally ran out because they kept extending unemployment. People were on unemployment for years during COVID.
When they cut me off December of 2020, they did not reestablish my claim. I kept applying and it was denied. So I don't know why, but it was.
What kind of work do you do now?
I work for customer service.
Okay. And the trade school that you wanted to go to was to prepare you for what?
To be an electrician was what I wanted to do.
An electrician?
Yes.
And was this an online program?
No, this was in person.
Where?
It was in Seattle.
And how much did they give you to go to that program?
They didn't give me money to go to the program, but the program was free of charge.
Okay. So the government paid the tuition?
I believe that
Well, somebody pays the tuition, sir.
Yeah.
So the government pays the tuition. And while you were going to the program, which you said it was in person, how were you supporting yourself?
So...
Were you getting any government assistance that was connected to this trade school? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, I applied for food stamps and got food stamps. That is what I got.
So you applied for some sort of assistance while you were going to this trade school, which you're not practicing now, and you're not an electrician.
That is correct.
And in order to apply for food stamps, you have to have a certain amount of money is the maximum you can have in your bank.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's the fraud you're talking about. That's why he gave you the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean,
just a second.
I also gave her the money because she was going to need the money for rent. Like, it was one of those situations where it was mutually beneficial for me to give her the money, but it wasn't.
You're looking up at the sky. I understand what happened.
So I wasn't going to have any way to support myself. I needed something to, the $2,000 was going to cover the rent for my place and my place in Seattle and my place in Utah, and then I wasn't going to have anything left.
I understand that it became mutually beneficial for you to advance her the money so that your bank account would have less in it so that you could receive assistance and also get free tuition at a trade school that you didn't use.
My intention was to use it, and I changed my decision later.
Do you think the trade school charged the government once you enrolled in it?
Yes.
Yes, of course they did. And you know how much the tuition was in the trade school? Yes, you have to know. No, it was free to you, but it wasn't free to the government.
Right,
the government pays.
$1,500 was what I was made to understand.
Baloney. You people really somehow deserve each other, but you owe him $3,000. Madam, judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I'm a little bit shocked to be made out as a government scammer.
I mean, I lost my job and I wasn't able, and he bailed on the lease that he signed.
Because that wasn't ever my intentions.
I mean, I was alone. I had lost my job. I just didn't have any support.
Definitely careful about getting money from the government.
Just glad it's done. Glad I don't ever have to see him again.
Haven't had to do that since this whole situation, and I intend to keep it that way.
You know, it's so unfortunate because that plaintiff looked like an intelligent enough man, able-bodied, seemingly, and he spent a lot of time, effort, brain power into bankruptcy proceedings, trade schools that would be paid for by the government, applying for food stamps, knowing what the threshold for food stamps is so that he had to get rid of a certain amount of money. That seems like a lot of time and effort that could have been better spent gaining legitimate employment or skills at a trade school legitimately. And it's just unfortunate that some people decide to take the path that I view as more difficult in searching for ways to get free money.
Really unsatisfying.
Yeah.
If you think about it, unsatisfying.
Maybe going forward, he'll take a different